SnowTrax is sponsored by Ski-Doo Snowmobiles. Experience that Ski-Doo feeling. Yamaha revs your heart. And by FXR Racing. Maximum versatility for all conditions.
So NATS is North America's top snowmobiler. It's a competition that we've been doing for 3 years. And essentially what we've done is we've pitted mountain riders against trail riders, Canada against the USA, and this year it was East versus West. It went really, really widespread. People got great coverage on national network news. This season was pretty high stake, pretty aggressive gameplay, and it turned out really well.
So I woke up 3 o'clock in the morning and I opened up my phone and I had a text message from my mother and said, "Congratulations." So I said, well, I got to investigate this. So I scrolled onto the SuperTrax site and sure enough, my name was there and I don't think I've slept since. So CKMP, for one, the place is surgically clean. And the shop, I could probably roll out a sleeping bag and live in that. It's pretty awesome. Like the sleds that Carl rode in the past, like when I used to watch him at a snowcross race and just hanging from the rafters, it's kind of surreal, right?
Carl, do you know how to run that thing? I remember you.
So it was time for Dustin to meet Carl, and this was going to be big for him. I mean, honestly, he was vibrating. He was so excited to meet Carl. Carl's been an icon in his life for a long time.
Just to meet the guy, and I've seriously been following him and Blair Morgan and their race team ever since they existed. And
so as if winning the competition, getting a 2020 sled, going to CKMP, being featured on SnowTrax and in SuperTrax magazine and all this cool stuff wasn't enough, Ski-Doo also threw in a brand new set of Helium 30 ride gear for Dustin. So the first day we weren't going to be riding with Carl, we were actually riding with Carl's better half, Shelly. Shelly is an absolute beast on the snowmobile. Like, this lady can tear it up.
She has really been the poster child for bad decisions, make great stories. She really is a ripper, and she is a great teacher.
He's just out there. It's like, you know, it's like in the Lego movie, the spaceship guy, you know, he's just like, powder pillow, snowmobile, wheelie, awesome. He's just going crazy, just tearing everything up.
it was awesome. Once I got used to the sled a bit and could throw it around.
Comes back, and I mean, I think his helmet was grinning. They were gonna have to surgically remove this thing from his head, the smile that he had. He was stoked. So after we got Dustin warmed up, Shelly was gonna take him out and just kind of push his limits a little bit, run him through the trees and into some more vertical, steep stuff.
I was giggling like a schoolgirl, so yeah, I don't think I've laughed or smiled as hard in my life, like on a snowmobile as what I am right now. Shelly can absolutely shred. It blew my mind, right? Like, that girl can ride. You got to be pushing each other. I mean, you don't really want to sit down, and if you're at a place like this, you don't want to sit down and trail ride all day, you know? And if, as far as I'm concerned, if you're not getting stuck or you're not in a place where you're, you know, not 100% comfortable, then you're not trying hard enough. My rookiness came out. What happened? But I'm still smiling. Well, I've had a lot of seat time at the Summit Expert, and it's awesome. I got to ride the 2023 ride. That's also awesome. This Summit Expert by far stands out the most, just the little subtle changes, like you wouldn't believe how much difference it makes, like in your confidence and what you can do, especially for someone who's not used to riding in the mountains. It's a big help.
So the impact that we've had with the expert package is what are the next things that people want to do with snowmobiles and make them more agile, capable. So you handle bigger jumps, you know, you can ride it more aggressively. And that's kind of how we came up with the expert package. So without the snow flap, obviously, and a shorter tunnel, you know, it really evacuates the snow. So when you're climbing up the hill, it'll stand right up on the end if you let it, especially if you pull back. You can pretty much turn it around and go right back out the same track.
The helium gear this is the first time I've worn it, and it's awesome, right? Like coming up the trail, you can close up your vents. It'll keep you warm. It won't make you sweat. If you start to sweat, you can open up your vents, and it just gets all the moisture out. You never have that hot, cold cycle. Like when you're riding, you're hot, and when you're stopped, you freeze. It's just kind of consistent.
It was like, this was monumental for Dustin. It's one of those times where I really felt blessed to be able to be there and be able to just experience it with him and see his passion.
It's no use living if you're already there. It's not worth saying if it's already said. Even if it all goes over your head, believe it if you want to. So keep your eyes on the road and your head in the stars. Follow it down the rabbit hole just a little while longer. You can change anything if you want to.
You know, like going around with you guys and just seeing what you guys can do and trying to follow you and trying to keep up, it's fun. And it's they always say, you know, you'll never really learn unless you ride or you do something with somebody who is at an higher level, right? So it's good. I think yesterday you said I was giggling like a schoolgirl, so yeah, I don't think I've laughed or smiled as hard in my life, like on a snowmobile as what I am right now.
So I finally got the chance to ride with Dustin in an area that was just prime. It had snowed a whole bunch of fresh snow. It was just perfect. I mean, it was one of those cut blocks that typically would look pretty mellow, but it had like 9 feet of snow on it.
It's not worth saying if it's already said. Even if it all goes over your head, believe it if you want to. So keep your eyes on the road and your head in the stars. Follow it down the rabbit hole just a little while longer. You can change anything if you want to. Said it's not worth living if you're already dead. It's not worth saying if it's already said. Even if it all goes straight to your head, believe it if you want to. Believe it if you want to.
I mean, CKMP has always been known for exceptional mountain riding at lower altitudes with more horsepower, but I'll tell you what, this little cut block we found was unlike any I had ever ridden before.
You know, in Newfoundland, most rocks are just covered by pillows. You're kind of rolling the dice when you go into one, but here it's just, you know, if you don't see a stump coming out of it, you can pretty much go over the backside of it. And then when you land, it's just snow in your face. Beautiful.
Like a video game, really. We just got dumped on with snow. You can pop off of this one, pop off of that one, double those two, step off of this one, and it really is a cool playground that is different than just an open powder field. And you kind of have to wait until later in the season until it gets filled in quite a bit to be able to do that.
Shelly took us to a place that I would call solid gold. I mean, Dustin and I were having a blast, ripping it up, dropping everything we could, and just giggling like little kids. At one point, I actually heard him laughing through his helmet. This guy is great. He's so much fun to ride with. He's just so amped. The Summit Expert is a really unique sled because obviously it's got that shorter tunnel on it, the little tiny snow flap, if you even want to call it a snow flap. It's got the adjustable limiter strap. you know, different front end geometry, the different shocks. It's got a whole lot of things about it. The tiny seat and an absolute wheelie monster. This thing runs on the rear idlers non-stop. Not only does it do that, but when you come out of the wheelie and you throw your shoulder down and set it onto a side hill, it doesn't kind of want to pop back up and keep coming back up. It just sticks and stays. There's no snow flap to stop it. It doesn't build up in the skid. It seems like this thing weighs less because it's carrying less snow. And I got off it and I was like, I don't think I want to ride anything other than this up here now. I'm 100% certain I've heard you screaming like a little schoolgirl inside your helmet at least a dozen times after landing stuff, wheeling, the whole 9 yards. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm doing it a lot too. This sled, to me, is honestly, this is a different snowmobile. This is not a G4 Summit. This is the expert package. It should have a new label because it's completely different. We were just cruising this sweet little, kind of a creek bed, I guess. It's running into the trees from the higher alpine area. You know, it was kind of this nice little area. We could ramp up the banks and whatnot.
Oh man.
And man, I have not gone over the bars and kissed the hood like that for quite some time. It was, yeah, it knocked the wind clean out of me. Sled was fine, everything was good, but it took a little while to get out of there. There was a little forestry work needed. Well, nice Christmas tree, if anything. It's a bit of a Charlie Brown, but. So there's a bit of a tradition at CKMP. At the end of the day, you go around the table and tell kind of your favorite moment of the day, but then there's also, if something goes sideways, somebody's got to wear the chicken suit, and I'm talking like full chicken suit. And on this particular day, Dustin was the guy to do that. Now, the reason that he did that, and I don't think it's on camera, and you probably aren't gonna see it, but he popped off his Avalanche ABS system, I think probably in the first 50 feet of going off trail.
SnowTrax is sponsored by Princess Auto. Make it work.
So it was finally the day for Dustin to ride with Carl. He was amped, it was on. It was like, this was monumental for Dustin. He was so excited to ride with Carl, and I wanted these two guys just to go out and do what Carl Kuster does. Push your limits, keep you safe, but make sure you come back with some serious stories.
When we got to the first little zone and there was kind of some wind drifts and stuff in there, and Dustin was ripping around, and even when we were doing some hill climbing previously, Dustin was side hilling through there, and he ripped through everything with ease, and I was impressed. You know, obviously he spent some time riding a snowmobile and jumping a snowmobile and flipping or, you know, fooling around, but he definitely has played around on a sled lots, and that's obvious.
So yeah, this is day 2, and we got to ride with Carl. Again, I just got to say, just a humble dude, right? I think that was the most mind-blowing, is like, I've seriously been following him and Blair Morgan and their race team ever since they existed. And
remember, it can't be any fun. This is strictly work. Work, 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 work.
Roger.
Just to meet the guy and start riding with him and see like how interactive he is with you. It's not like, hey man, I'm Carl Kuster, just try and follow me.
Doesn't matter if it's the expert sled or the free ride or normal summit or whatever, you know, bent knees, and when you're going through the rough stuff, it really absorbs that and the sled just settles right out.
Yeah.
I YouTubed that this morning. I'm pretty sure that's what it said.
Just getting a bit of seat time and getting to chase him around, and I know he's probably taking it a bit easy at me, but it's awesome.
Well, it was awesome to ride with the SuperTrax, SnowTrax guys again, and Dustin. It was a joy, and we had good snow conditions, and we had a riot. Excited to see what sled Dustin picks, and let's do it again.
Just to come out here and experience it is unreal. When my kids are older, I can tell them about it, And it's, you know, it's just awesome, right? You know, like it's just a cool story, just to say that.
Let's never put the night on ice. Never put the night on ice.
It was a pleasure getting to know Dustin better, learning of his deep-rooted passion for snowmobiling, which we also share. Heck, after seeing him ride, you definitely know he is very deserving of the title, North America's top snowmobiler. Oh, that was bigger than I thought. Oh! Look at where it dropped in. It's like somebody shoveled a 4-foot deep hole. There seems to be a lot of ways that people interpret that Ski-Doo feeling, but I think the experiences that we shared in this story might just express that authentic feeling the best. When you come out with something really good, I'm talking exceptional, the natural progression is to try to duplicate that product and bring it to more people. And for 2020, Polaris is doing exactly that with the Indy XC lineup. No longer is the Indy XC just a 129. Nope, now you can get it in multiple flavors and different track lengths. And for today, I'm going to be focusing on the Indy XC 137. And this particular model is the SnowTrax Select. That means we get lots of cool stuff and SnowTrax only buyer customizable options included right from the factory, not the least of which is the 850 Patriot. Actually, it's kind of like the cornerstone of the whole SnowTrax platform since the 850 Patriot was released last year as SnowTrax only, and Polaris has continued that for the 2020 season as well. Indy XC means straight tunnel, but up until now you could only get it in a 129. So what did Polaris do to get that extra 8 inches? To get the full 137-inch length, Polaris didn't just stretch the Pro CC rails and call it a day. While they did use the same parts in the skid frame, they needed to adjust the geometry to make it all work just as good as the 129. And that included moving the front arm location as well as other minor tweaks. Now we all know the 129s work better than 120s, but can you truly make a 137 ride as good as a 129? If anyone could, it was going to be the engineers at Polaris, but in the end, I'm here to tell you precisely what they came up with and if it says compliant. Utilizing the same, well, pretty much everything from ski tips to rear bumper, we know that the front end on this sled works great on the Indy XC. But when you add in extra length, the tendency is to cause more push in the corners, and the sled has a harder time to overcome the driving force of all of that track. And when you add in the options of the ice gripper track now available for 2020 SnowTrax Polaris sleds, there's a lot more pressure, quite literally, put on the Axis front suspension. However, the verdict is in, and let me tell you, there is very little to complain about with this new length Indy XC. Corner to corner, this sled has Polaris written all over it. While I was cautious it would lose some of the hallmark Polaris predictable front-end corner railing ability, it absolutely did not. The outside ski still stays flat and doesn't push or bite too hard to cause inside ski lift. 37-inch track does, however, grab a lot more snow and does a good job of putting the 850 Patriot power to the ground. While I didn't go head-to-head with a 129, I wouldn't hesitate to say the 137 both gets going with more authority and also seems to carry just a little bit more top end when you really wind it out. The name Walker Evans and Polaris are now very synonymous, and while you won't find the needle or likewise the velocity shocks on the XC137, we imagine there's going to be a 137 XCR in the Indy XC clothing for the 2021 season. The standard Walker piggyback shocks are plush, comfortable, and deliver really acceptable small chatter compliance and likewise big hit absorption. And remember, these are compression adjustable, so you got lots to play with. Could they use a simplified QS3 style clicker? Well, maybe, but then again, Walker shocks seem to be a real home run for Polaris, and buyers seem to like the easy-to-understand adjustability. And keep in mind, the needle shocks from the XCR or the new Velocities take a lot of getting used to how to adjust them, and are not just a single easy-to-use clicker. Now, when it comes to the real-world suspension performance, I'd say if we were in the head-to-head battle between the 129 and the 137, The 137 certainly bridges some of the medium-sized trail moguls and pre-corner braking bumps better than the 129. However, I believe the 129 to chew through and smooth out the exit bumps when hitting hard on the throttle. With the track length of standard trail sleds seeming to stretch and a 137 really not even being considered a crossover any longer, what are the benefits and do you really need a 137? I like to think of it in terms of what you find yourself riding. If you have tabletop groomed hardpack most of the season and deeper snow conditions on lakes or field crossings are never much of a concern, then the XC129 is probably the right bet for you. Likewise, if you do find yourself on softer snow conditions, lakes and fields that see deeper snow and less grooming, or you like to occasionally pull off into the powder to play, the 137 truly answers the call while not giving up anything and actually gaining in some areas. Now, I'm not saying it's better at everything, and if you're a hard-packed trail railer, you certainly still are going to feel at home on the 129, as it does apex corners and cut a line with greater ease. But the 137 in my books has been able to deliver a nearly matched cornering capability, and that's something that we don't see very often. While the 137 trail compliance war has been dominated by Skidoo's R-Motion rear suspension, I'm here to tell you that the 2020 Indy XC 137 does a darn good job, and might even come out on top.
SnowTrax has been sponsored by Polaris Snowmobiles, MBRP Performance Exhaust, race-inspired, trail-proven, and by Hercules Tire, ride on our strength.
If you like what you've just seen, click the subscribe button and comment below. And make sure you check out all of our great videos on SnowTrax TV's YouTube channel.